Adam, I want to talk about your other video, your side control escapes video in just a moment, but first let's sidestep and talk about your ethnicity. Your parents were born in Bosnia, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you go back there frequently?
Yeah, you know, my parents, they came from Bosnia. It was like the former Yugoslavia. They came here over 40 years ago, so I was born in Chicago. And I used to go, when I was younger, there was a war there for pretty, I mean, one day a war is too many, you know, but I think it was 3 years, something like that. Mm-hmm. So there was a time, actually the first time I went was after the war. Yeah, the first time I went was after the war, and then I would go back like every summer. So I would go once a year. Then I got married, had some kids, the responsibilities became, you know, very difficult to travel. So there was a long stretch where I didn't go, maybe like 7 years. But I recently visited a few months ago, and I have plans to go back in November. I'm working with some investors over there that want to grow jiu-jitsu in that region. So hopefully we can make an impact there.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So your other video was all on side control escapes, and again, being a big strong guy, did you find yourself in side control frequently?
Yeah, you know, I remember we talked about like struggles and all that stuff on the journey. Side mount, being stuck in side mount, for me, I used to have anxiety attacks. You know, especially sometimes I used to, you know, consider myself, you know, a guard player. I still do. But when I was blue purple belt, I would dive with my guard, you know, like if someone passed my guard, that itself releases like so much anxiety, and you know, so now you're tired, you're exhausted, and now you're dealing with someone on top of you. I remember specifically I would have to tap out from just panic. I feel like I'm having a heart attack. That would be at the blue belt level. And I remember what helped me at that time was I made it a point, I'm just gonna let people pass my guard, because I would deny that position so much, it would lead to so much stress and anxiety once I got past. So I remember for like a few months, everyone thought, you know, who would come in and see me train, like I had a horrible guard because it kept getting passed. But my intention at that time was just to get comfortable. And I think that's a big part of someone getting better at that position. All of these defensive positions, you can go online and, you know, buy a video, watch a video, go to a seminar, pick up the technical way of escaping. But a big part of that's going to be your mental composure in those situations, you know, being, you know, a little bit comfortable and patient and relaxed. So I think that's a good advice to give to the guys who are on the journey, who are struggling with that. Sometimes just go jump in the water, you know, stay there. I had a theory or an analogy. You know, we had in Chicago infamous housing project called Cabrini Green. And I would say like, see, everybody is so scared of Cabrini Green, right? If I put you in Cabrini Green and you just, you know, you're there for the first time, you're probably gonna be really nervous. You're gonna probably be like very scared. You might even get hurt, you know? You don't know where to go. Go in the wrong place, you're gonna get shot. But what about a guy who grew up in Cabrini Green, a guy who's lived in Cabrini Green for like 10, 15 years? He knows where is safe. He knows where he's not going to get shot, you know, he has a little bit more comfort. So I think a big part of these bad positions, you know, these positions that you're struggling with, part of the growth is just you got to spend more time there. You can talk, imagine a guy who's never trained before and you have him watch my DVD or anybody's DVD on escapes for 1 month and make him drill that for 1 month and then put him in that position for the first time when it's live. It's going to be worthless. He just can't deal with the stress, emotions. He doesn't have the experience. So
I've heard other people suggest that, particularly when you're sparring with lower belts, just let them put you in a bad position so you can work your escapes. And it's something I hear talked about but rarely employed. You know, a lot of guys with really good guards aren't going to let someone pass their guard. But consequently, when they compete or go against another high-level guy, they're going to end up getting their guard passed and not have very good escapes.
Yeah. And you see some people, when you pass their guard, they give up, they tap.
Yeah.
They just, that's it. They don't got nothing left. And usually sometimes, like, I remember when I was, the last time I experienced that when I was doing a seminar, training with one guy, and the guard was really good. He had a really good guard, but once they got past, it was like you tapped him, you know, because he probably didn't, he's not comfortable in those situations, you know.
You know, in competition, guys want to avoid the points at all costs. When someone passes their guard, they oftentimes go to the turtle position to avoid getting scored on. But that exposes the back and can lead to, you know, other bad things happening. When someone is passing your guard, are you in the habit of turtling or not?
I do. I do, and I know the risk it entails. And I was actually, this whole month we were doing turtle at my academy. And every class, I always give a discretion. You know, like going to the turtle, there's going to be, you know, especially the old school, you know, guys, they're going to say, don't do it, you know. And I respect that. I understand what they're saying. You know, going to the turtle, there is some risk involved. But I think just like anything in jiu-jitsu, you'll start to see it's good that you know what the rules are, but eventually you know them well enough, your defensive awareness is strong enough where it's okay to break some of the rules, you know. So I do go to the turtle, but I do it with the intention of wrestling. You know, I'm about to wrestle. I'm not going to stay there. I think if I go to the turtle and I stop, that's when all the problems happen. I think in the turtle, in particular, one thing I tell my students is you have to put it in drive or you put it in reverse. If you keep it in neutral, you're gonna be lunch, you know.
In other words, staying in turtle is not a good idea.
I don't think so. You're gonna have some people who, you know, in a hobbyist, you know, training in the academy or maybe even the tournaments, who will stay there for a long time and make it work for them. But that's very sport specific. Because I'll agree with the old school guys. If it's like a real fight or something, then I just watched Babalu kick someone in the head. Old school Valetudo match. The guy went to the turtle, he stood up and just kicked him in the head. So it's a good reminder that the old school guys would probably remind us, like, self-defense. Yeah, I understand that. I respect it. And but if I ever get there, I put it in drive and start trying to out-wrestle you, or I put it in reverse to get my guard back. I don't stay there to just hang out.
I think that's wise advice. Adem, let's change topics for a moment and talk about faith. For a lot of people, their faith or their religion is important to their not only their life, but their jiu-jitsu. How about yourself?
Yeah, for me, I definitely is a big part of my life. I would say probably around 23 or 24 years old is when I started to just start reading, questioning, and ultimately start practicing my faith. You know, I'm a Muslim. Here, living in America after 9/11, there was a lot of, you know, negative attention towards Muslims. And at that point in my life, I was not a practicing Muslim. I couldn't really tell you much about the faith, but that whole negative kind of vibe forced me to find out, okay, what is a Muslim? What is that, you know? So through that process, my brother also established a website, a TV show, where he tries to tackle the misconceptions of Islam. So I think it's a big part of my life, you know, and I think it coincides with jiu-jitsu. You know, like I look at jiu-jitsu as the gentle way. I also look at faith as a gentle way. It's not how everybody interprets it, you know. That's why sometimes people practicing faith have a bad rep. You have people practicing it and not being so gentle. Just like jiu-jitsu, you have some people practicing jiu-jitsu. They give jiu-jitsu a bad rep too. They're hurting people with it, you know. So for me, I think it's something that centers me, and have learned many life-changing lessons, you know.
As you know, there'll be some people that just hear the word Muslim and they'll be instantly turned off and they'll be very judgmental,
Yeah.
just because of the actions of other people. But of course, as you pointed out, there's bad people in all faiths and all walks of life. But what is something concrete that that your faith has helped you with?
Man, that's a deep question. You know, I think one of the biggest lessons would be knowing that everybody has rights. You know, like right now I'm a son. My mother has like very clear rights over me. My father has very clear rights over me. My wife has rights over me. As a brother, my brother has rights over me. As a businessman doing business, my customers have very clear rights over me. So like, I become, I think like empathetic, if that's the word, more conscious of other people's rights. I think that's one of the biggest, sometimes, you know, you're just out for your own. You just need to get what you want to get, and you're thinking about yourself, you get selfish. You know, so for me, practicing Islam, I think, has made me more conscious of my fellow brother and sister in humanity. And that's how I look at humanity. I don't look at myself as a evolved monkey. You know, I look like, you're my brother. You know, whether you have a different faith or whatever, we're brothers, we're sisters, and that's the perspective I look at. And having that perspective just helps me be a little more soft, a little bit more gentle, knowing that we are, sincerely I believe, we're brothers, you know, or sisters who are watching.
Awesome. Adam, thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge with us today. But we're not through yet. Now let's go to the techniques. But again, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, brother. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Adam, you're a great guy at breaking things down to the most fundamental movements. You know, some instructors just teach, do A, do B, do C, and then that's it. But you go to a deeper level. And like on your Side Control Escape series, you had some great things. So hopefully you can get into a little bit of that today.
You know, on the basically escaping side mount, one of the claims that I made that I believe in is if you're flat on your back, you're gonna feel the maximum of your opponent's pressure. Just by turning to your side, you'll feel a tremendous amount of relief. He's not gonna feel as heavy. That's a big part of this material, was fighting to get to your side. When you get to your side, you're alive. If you're on your back, you're flat, you're dead. You know, so getting to your side, it's not only gonna alleviate pressure, but getting to your side, you're gonna have access to stability, mobility. This is a principle that I feel is like, it's been super helpful for me. Let's take a quick look at this. I feel that in order for my hips to move, I have to lean on a source of stability. So take a look here. If I'm on my side, now I have my shoulder. And I can use that shoulder. If I lean on that shoulder, it can help me make some space. I can move my hips. But that's not the only way of moving. If I lean on that shoulder, it can also help me transition to another position, maybe even stand up. So I have my shoulder, but I also have access to my elbow. This is my second source of stability. I have my shoulder, have my elbow. Again, from here, I can move my hips. If I need to defend a guard passer, I can also use that source of stability to transition to my knees or to my feet. Shoulder, elbow, and also a hand. Sometimes I'm gonna use my hand to disengage, to make space, to even start standing up. In order to move my hips efficiently, I need a source of stability. Let's just look at a couple positions where we might see this. You know, let's take a look at from the half guard. Let's say I'm playing in like a classical half guard here, and one popular sweep that I like entails me getting to my elbow. I'm about to move my hips. I'm gonna try to change this position. I have to move. I can't be that dead cockroach how I was when I first started training, you know? I have to move. So when I lean on this, it makes my hips lighter. Boom. Now I can move my hips. Now I can start to threaten the position to begin my movement. Another example of using the elbow is if I were to take your back, Jake, here. Sometimes you'll see you lose this back position. Maybe the person starts turning into you, and if I don't know how to move my hips, sometimes that causes me to lose the position. Now, I'm not trying to break down the technique behind winning this transition. I'm just trying to point out that again, in order to move my hips, I have to lean on something. My elbow, my shoulder, my hand. So from here, when I'm losing this position, my number one priority is to prepare myself to move, and I have to get something to lean on. I'll lean on my elbow. Now I can move my hips and win that transition. And this can be like countless scenarios, you know. If you have to move your hips, you have to lean on something. The only other form of mobility that I've recognized that kind of, besides these three, there's one more, you know, just in case I'm missing another one, feel free to send me an email, reach out to me and enlighten me. But I can move my hips sometimes if the person is, you know, if I use my opponent's pressure, you know, like if he's standing and he's coming, I can pivot on the top of my back. That's another way of moving my hips. But those are the only ones that I've come across. Training 15 years, that's what I've noticed. I need to move my hips. I'm either going to use it by connecting to my opponent somehow with my legs and using his energy to pivot on my back, or I'm going to have to get to my side and rely on my shoulder, my elbow, or my hand to get those hips moving. One last thing. When you're using the elbow, sometimes you get stuck, you get jammed. You know, like right now, if my elbow is like this and I try to get on my elbow, I almost feel like that is stopping me, you know? My elbow is kind of like stopping me from sitting up. So I notice like bringing my elbow wide helps me prop up consistently. I don't have many problems getting to my elbow when I follow this direction, you know. The other one would be sometimes I have my elbow in and I can get to it, you know. Maybe I'm trying to get away to a belly down and boom, pop up to my elbow. So getting to the elbow, to access the elbow, I keep it in at one extreme or I open it wide to the other extreme. I've personally felt a lot of congestion, you know, in the middle, making it hard to get to my elbow. But again, when it's time to move, when you gotta go, you gotta lean on something. You need a support system. Your shoulder, elbow, or hand.
Wow, so that was a lot of information, Adam. If I was just to check and see if I understand this, our hips are our core, and there's a lot of weight there. No matter if you're a big guy or a small guy, that's where a lot of our weight is centered, and it's hard to move all that weight. So you need to balance that. You need to push off on something just to raise your hips a little bit. Even during the shrimp exercise, you couldn't see your hips raising up, but you're posting off on your foot just ever so slightly, raising your hips just a little bit so you can get that mobility.
Yeah.
And during our chat, we talked about learning, learning the open guard and how that can help you passing. If I know what you need to play open guard, I know how I can defeat that to pass. So if we go back and if it's your job to move your hips to improve your position, and I know that, now I'm not going to let you use your elbow or use your shoulder. So if I can secure a grip here, now if you try to move your hips, you're going to have a hard time doing that, right? So I'm just basically taking the information you just gave me and using it for the top guy. So
it's the perfect yin and yang. Right? You'll notice like these good guys, they're attacking your posture, they're attacking your structure, they're taking away the tools that you need. You know, one of my favorite training partners, Clark Gracie, on that topic, you know, what I noticed, if you can come here, Jake, and you'll see people do this, Like, let's say we're kind of in a scramble situation and you do pop up to your elbow. This is a form of movement. But you'll see some people, they will attack that. Now this is becoming pretty popular, you know. Once you post in the elbow, they jump for like a remote rolling Kimura trap. So that's not gonna make me stop using my elbow, but I have to be aware. You know, everything we do can, like I talk on the DVD, I use a lot of the underhook. Some people don't use the underhook because they say you're gonna get Darce choked or you're gonna get head and arm. Some people don't leave their house because they think they're gonna get killed. You know what I mean? So everything can be used for me or against me.
Right. But you got to be aware of it first of all, and I think you've illuminated a really important principle of hip movement from the bottom. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
If people want to find out more about you, where can they find you online?
If you're in Chicago, come be my guest. Come train with us whenever you're in the city. You're more than welcome. Just tell them you're Adem's friend. And Chicago Jiu-Jitsu, ChicagoJiu-Jitsu.com. I have a blog also called JujitsuForLife.com. So hit me up on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and look forward to get to know you.
And if you haven't already, be sure to check out Adem's instructional, available on BudoVideos.com. It's called Basically Escaping Side Control. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you guys for making it all this way through another episode of This Week in BJJ. We appreciate you guys watching. There's going to be another episode next week. And also, if you're in the SoCal area, on October 10th, I'm going to be doing a seminar at Matt Baker's Academy. He runs a Jean-Jacques Machado affiliate school. So check that out at BudoVideos.com. And as always, if you enjoyed the show, please like, subscribe, leave a comment. We'll see you guys next time.